Welcome to Intro Skippers, the show where sometimes we skip an episode. This is one. Hi, I'm your co-host, Kim.
Hi, I'm your co-host, Jason, and we are really busy. So this is going to be like Ice-T's podcast or Arnold Schwarzenegger's podcast that are only like a couple minutes long. They usually
Really?
they usually don't have barking dogs in the background, though.
I don't have a barking dog, and I don't know about those podcasts. So,
Mm.
you're ahead of me on both.
Okay. Yes, both of them have very short podcasts. They're more like I don't know, they give like one little tidbit of wisdom and then they're like, we're out. So
he'll be like, I'm Ice-T. Don't forget to take out the trash today.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
See you next time. No, it's a little bit longer than that, but they're definitely on the short side.
I didn't know that at all. I used to listen to a short podcast, and it's embarrassing. It was from Chris D'Elia, that
D'Elia?
comedian. Yeah.
The disgraced comedian.
Uh-huh. Because he was a friend of a friend. And don't worry, I'm not friends with either of them now.
Okay, good. That's probably for the best.
I was never friends with Chris, but yeah, because he was too cool.
Well, look, we both work in Hollywood, and chances are there's going to be a friend of a friend that did something crappy. It just sucks. I mean, but you know what? Even if we lived in Hoboken, New Jersey, or Poughkeepsie, New York, or somewhere else,
another place in the tri-state area,
I think that we would all have a friend of a friend who did something bad, because unfortunately people do things bad sometimes.
It's true. I'm from Southern California, and I've talked to people outside of the industry who have done bad things. Turns out that happens all the time.
Yeah, bad things happen, unfortunately. But that's not why we're here. We're here because we want to lift people's spirits. By the way, one of my dogs just bolted into the room. She knows how to open doors. So I closed the door to record this podcast, and she opened the door, came bolting in, and just sat down right next to me.
Is she going to be quiet, or are we going to hear, a third podcaster?
I think she's going to be. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Okay.
Maybe this is our first guest, technically.
Yeah, seriously. All right. So we wanted to have story time today because we don't have an episode, but we'll be back with an episode.
Yeah, we will.
We're just busy as hell, okay? It happens.
Do we want to start calling these shorter episodes or ones where we tell stories? Do we want to call it story time? And then it'll be like story time 1, story time 2, story time 90,000. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Side story or mini, whatever. We'll think of something. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I have a story. It is a Hollywood story, and I will go with this one this time. So I'm going to save my Ozzy Osbourne stories. I have multiple. I'm going to save my Ozzy Osbourne stories for later. This is my almost David Lynch story.
Did you meet David Lynch almost?
Here's what happened. Okay, so as a lot of people know, I am a voice actor, but because I look the way that I look, I do have an on-camera agent. I don't often pursue on-camera acting because of the time that it takes, of the time that you have to dedicate. So, I'm a musician first, voice actor second, on-camera actor fifth. I don't know, but anyway.
Wow.
I've got a lot of irons in the fire. Okay.
You do.
But I have been in 2 Sci-Fi Channel movies and a Comedy Central movie.
What were they? I watched some low budget movies.
The Sci-Fi Channel movie that I have the biggest role in is called Battle Planet.
That sounds almost like Battle World, which is from Marvel Comics, but I don't think that's it.
No, it's different. It was originally going to be called The Suit because it was about this like space traveler in this suit that like could do all the stuff for him. But
wow, it's like the cape.
Yeah, but then it got changed to Battle Planet. And the best review of that movie that I ever saw was, there are no battles on this planet.
That's not a good
review. Oh no,
that's like House of the Dead that had no house.
It definitely was not. I would not say. Look, I would not say that this movie was on the top 100 movies of all time. It did not. It would not make that on anyone's list.
What about top 1,000? Still no?
Doubtful. But you asked. Okay, the other Sci-Fi Channel movie I was in was called The Curse of El Charro.
It's about charro beans.
Something like that.
Cool.
And no, it was about like a ghost / zombie / ghoul type creature. It was never really defined what kind of creature he was, but named El Charro. So, and then the Comedy Central movie that I was in was called Danny Roan, First Time Director. Directed by and written by Andy Dick.
Oh, God.
But check out this cast. James Vanderbeek.
I like him.
Anthony Rapp.
Yes, great actor. Cool guy.
Ben Stiller.
Like him.
Jack Black.
Yeah, Jack Black. You gotta love him.
Bob Odenkirk.
Cool.
All these people were in this movie.
By Andy Dick?
It's actually not a bad movie.
Doubt.
I mean, you could watch it.
Okay.
But
anyway. All right. Yeah.
So that leads to.
So you're not going to tell me an Andy Dick story. You're going to tell me a David Lynch story.
Right.
Okay.
I don't know if I have any Andy Dick stories that wouldn't make this podcast like R-rated.
Dude, they're all over the internet already. He's done some horrible things.
Yeah, so I don't even want to like go down that road.
Well, just imagine, everyone, he did something horrible and Jason saw it.
Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. But I mean, I wouldn't say that he didn't do anything that I saw so horribly that I should have contacted the authorities. I wasn't like holding that out. I just saw him do some stupid stuff. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell your real story.
Yeah, here's my real story. So, at the agency that I am repped by, there is a commercial agent and there is a theatrical agent. But by theatrical, that really means TV and movies. It's like a weird term that they've changed somehow, that has been changed so that it's theatrical actually means TV and movies. So my theatrical agent was on vacation. So my commercial agent was handling this particular thing that happened. So here's what happened. And hold on, my dog is doing something weird. So, hey, don't do that. Okay, don't do that. Right here. Okay, so here's my story. So she calls me up and she says, hey, I've got an interesting thing. She was like, I've got an interview for you. I was like, an interview? Because usually it's an audition, right? It's not an interview. She's like, I've got an interview for you. So I go, well, that's interesting. And she goes, yeah, this is with a really well-known casting director. She's been in the business forever. They won't say what the name of the project is. They won't send over a script. They won't send over sides. They just want you to go down there and talk to him. I was like, okay, sure. And she was like, I wouldn't normally send anyone on something like this, but but the casting director is very well known. It's legitimate. It's just a very secretive project. So I go, okay, all right, I'll go down there. So the address that I'm given when I get there is clearly the set of either a television show or a movie. There are crew guys going everywhere. There's trucks showing up full of costumes and people are going through them. It is a hustle and bustle place of, activity. Clearly something's happening. So I kind of walk into the door that looks like the office and I said, hey, I'm here for an interview, sort of like with a question. She goes, oh, you're here for the audition. I'm like, finally a word I understand. A word I understand. Yeah. She goes, you go in there, but before you go in there, you need to sign this NDA. And I was like, oh, okay. So I look at the NDA and it says title, Twin Peaks, director David Lynch. I'm pretty sure the NDA is passed because Twin Peaks, the reboot, already came out.
It's done. It's fine. It's fine.
No one's going to come after me for this.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I was like, whoa, this is nuts. And then I go into the little room and I wait, and my brain is like processing this, going, what's happening here? How is this even possible? So I'm sitting in the waiting room. Who walks out of the room that I'm going to go in next? But a friend of mine, Derek Mears, who is a character actor. He played Jason.
He's a monster. Yeah,
he played Jason in a lot of the Friday the 13th later movies. He also played Swamp Thing. He was Swamp
I'm familiar
Thing
with his work.
Yeah. So I see Derek Mears walking out, and I'm like, oh, cool. But also, I'm kind of freaked out because I'm like, wait, I know Derek, but I just signed this NDA. Like, can I say hi to him? Like, what's going on? So he walked out and we saw each other. He's like, hey, what are you doing here? I'm like, oh, I'm just here for this that you're here for. And, two big white bald guys were probably up for the same part. So I go in and it is just the casting director and a camera. And she says, tell me a story. I want you to tell me maybe like a little bit about yourself, about your life, what brought you here. And that was my audition. Now, I knew it was for David Lynch, and I knew that he had worked with a couple of people that I had worked with. So he worked with Billy Ray Cyrus, because Billy Ray Cyrus was in Mulholland Drive. And he also worked with Marilyn Manson a little bit, who was in one of his other films. So I told a little story about working with Billy Ray, and I told a little story about working with Manson. And they said, thank you very much. And away I went. So a couple months go by. Then my theatrical agent, who is no longer on vacation, calls me and says, hey, did you audition for something for David Lynch? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, well, you didn't get the role that they were considering you for, but David Lynch thought you were interesting. So they wanted to inquire about you playing another role, but it's only for one day. You would be a patient dying of cancer, and you would have to cut off your beard. And well, here's what happened.
You wouldn't cut off your beard.
No, here's what happened.
Okay.
At the time, I was on avails, and what avails means is basically you've come in second or third on a project. And I was on avails to play a biker in a Geico commercial. So he knew this. And so he basically told them that it would be very unlikely that I would shave my beard. Now, would I have shaven my beard to work with David Lynch for one day? Yeah, I totally would have. But the timing couldn't have been worse, because I was already committed to playing this biker in a Geico commercial.
Couldn't you just shaved it?
What, and still be the biker?
Yeah, just get a fake beard.
Everything happened so fast, and my agent kind of spoke for me on this. And look, this was like almost 10 years ago now, so I can't even really remember it. But that is how I remember it. That basically me shaving of the beard, because another thing you got to understand, I know you know this, but maybe our listeners don't, is that when you work for one day on a television program, it's not that much. It's like under $1,000. So like, would I shave my beard?
Oh, are you saying SAG minimum?
Yeah, it's SAG minimum. Because you're a day player, which is like another term that probably not a lot of people understand. But so I respected my agent's decision for saying that. But I wish that like I don't know, I don't know. I wish that maybe I could have done it anyway, but just the timing was really bad. So that is my almost David Lynch story. That is a very Hollywood story.
That bums me out.
I'm sorry.
I want you to have been in a David Lynch thing.
Yeah, me too. That would have been pretty awesome. But
alas, or a Geico commercial.
Yeah, and I was in neither.
Yeah, that's what I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm. I was in a Skechers commercial, but only voiceover. Only voiceover.
Yeah, I don't usually see men in those commercials.
It was a radio commercial for Skechers, where I said, I think my line was something like, "I'm a waiter, so I'm on my feet all day, but I love my Skechers." Something like that.
Yeah. I bought my mom some Skechers. Oh, should I tell a story now?
Yeah, tell me that story. I want to hear that one.
No, that's boring.
Okay.
Well, I gave you 2 options. Did you like one over the other? You forgot. One was Disneyland Princess auditions. One was my first geek show.
Oh, I thought you were going to pick, honestly.
Okay, I'll do Disneyland Princess then.
That sounds pretty awesome. I want to hear that.
So before I got the Young Turks, I really, really needed a job, and I lived with my parents because I was pretty young. So my parents don't live that far away from Disneyland, and that's a viable place to get a job. Sure. So they had open casting for the face characters.
Right, because when you work at Disneyland, you're not an employee, you're a cast member.
And you go backstage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they were doing that for face characters specifically, which are characters where you see their face. So not really a regular quote unquote cast member / employee, but like, you're portraying Disney characters.
Right. And it's kind of another level of responsibility, right?
It is. It's a lot. And then there's also they're different from the people who wear, the character furry costumes.
Yeah.
Oh, I shouldn't have said furry. The character costumes. And so I went to that and I was like, oh no, there's hundreds of people here. There's so many people. They had us in a warehouse kind of a little bit off Disneyland Drive. I could point it out if I were there, but I don't remember exactly what the address was. It was a long time ago. Anyway, they had us all stand in lines inside. They ushered us inside and had us stand in lines. And I may have signed an NDA for this too, but again, it was a really long time ago. This was before I got the Young Turks, which is 10 years ago at this point. So they made us get into long rows of lines. Again, let's say 300 to 500 people. And then they played music, Disney music. I think they were playing It's a Small World or some Snow White music. And they like called each row like, this is Flower, this is Bambi, this is whatever, just different characters instead of row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. And they were like, all right, just stand there. And when it's your turn at the front of the line, all you have to do is smile and look forward. So like we hear, it's a small world. Or just like they're like, it's very awkward. And these people would be scrutinizing our faces. And most people were excused immediately. So they'd be like, all right, this person, thank you, please go. So like there'd be lines and lines and lines of people who would they'd all be dismissed. And like people were crying.
I bet because probably some of them, it was their dream to be a Disney
Jason,
princess.
So many of them, this was their dream. This job paid $20 an hour. This shouldn't be your dream. Anyway.
Oh man.
I go up. I do the smiling, awkward, whatever. Oh, they also had us say what our favorite movie was so they could hear us talk.
Okay.
And
sorry, my dog's snoring again.
I'm not that boring, dog.
She does not care about your favorite movie.
I said, hi, I'm Kim. I like The Princess and the Frog. And, I was the only one who said that movie, by the way.
Okay.
And, well, now it's a ride. So guess who was right? But anyway.
Exactly.
they picked me and they gave me a little piece of paper and it said Pocahontas. So they picked me for Pocahontas.
All right.
And they only picked 2 girls for that role, me and a different girl. And like I stood up in a row with like all these other people, and they had papers that were like Aladdin, Prince Charming, Tinkerbell's friend. I don't know their names. And some people actually had papers that were like guide. You know those people who are the handlers for the Disney characters that are like, all right, Eeyore has to go now.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Those people were so angry they got that and not a character. So we went back to the next part of the audition, and there were people freaking out. Like, I wanted to be Tinkerbell's friend, and I get this. I don't want to be a stupid guide, and like,
oh my God,
panicking, like, no chill. And I'm just like, I just need some money, and it's near my parents' house.
Yeah. Which is probably, you went in with that attitude, which is probably why you got so far. And you're like, I don't care about this. I need a job, dude.
I did get really far. They cut the other girl for my role, so it was just me left. And I was there for 8 hours, Jason. That's a long audition.
Shouldn't they pay you by then?
They should, but they didn't.
It wasn't SAG, obviously.
No. It's a different union, and I wasn't in yet, so
okay.
And yeah, it was weird back there. Like, I was talking to this girl, and she was like, I don't know if I have the right accent to be Tiana. And I was like, I think you sound great. And she was like, yeah, but I sound like the wrong kind of Southern. And I was like, I promise you, no one will notice. So, and I talked to this really beautiful woman who was like in charge. And I was like, excuse me, were you friends with Belle? And she said, yes, I was friends with Belle. That's what you call, you don't say you played Belle. You say you were friends with Belle.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, that's the secret terminology.
Like Santa in a way, like it's Santa's elves.
I'm one of Santa's helpers. Yeah. And it was very weird, very like, this is a culture that I could never help to touch. I always thought I liked Disney, but I am not a Disney person. These are Disney people. They are wild. And we were walking around and people were like freaking out. And so the next part of the audition, they had us like read lines, but they didn't have lines for me, despite having a full ass movie on this character. They gave me the poem Hiawatha.
Okay.
Like,
yeah.
You know that poem. It's like down by the river, blah, blah, blah. And it's describing, the beauty of nature. And I did that. And yeah, eventually.
So what happened?
They kept me and they kept me. And then they released like everyone. And I was like, what is this? So I was friends with someone who was friends with Mulan.
Got it.
She told me they decided not to have anyone be that character at all as like their main character.
Huh.
Because Pocahontas is pretty controversial, Jason.
You don't say.
And I am not an indigenous person, okay? Right. I am Southeast Asian. I am mixed. The other girl was also Southeast Asian.
Yeah, I get it.
Because the character does not look like a native person. And by the way, no native person is going to want to be Disney's Pocahontas.
No.
So I guess that's what they were doing.
Yeah. But you know what?
Yeah, they just decided to have her be like someone's secondary character instead of like a dedicated person attached to her. So maybe the girl who's Jasmine will sometimes put on a different costume,
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I still think you would have made it. So sounds like you did, but they decided just not to.
It sounds like I did because I was the only one they kept, and they kept me there forever. But they should have probably decided ahead of time they didn't want to cast Pocahontas.
What was going through your mind at that time? Like in hour 6, hour 7, hour 8, where you're like, yeah, I guess I could do this.
Yeah. Well, I needed some money.
Yeah, it's a job.
But it's a hard job because you have to deal with so many different issues. It's like you're improvising on your feet all the time. And sometimes people are weird. They have certain ways of directing people how to pose for photos because men get sometimes handsy.
Sometimes.
With the princesses, sometimes dad will think, I'll put my hand maybe here, and you'll go, no,
dad, no.
And you have to direct them to hold their hand a certain way, like, let's do a prince pose, and it was, it could have been fun, but I can see why Pocahontas didn't happen. I do think I look like Disney's version of the character, though.
Still. You kind of do, so I get it. I get it. You do.
So I look like this pretend Native American person who they did not draw her to look like a Native person. They said they based her on the voice actor, but they really didn't. If you look at side by sides,
but wasn't the voice actor also
the singing
Asian
voice?
Descent?
No. The main voice actor, Irene Berdard, I believe her name is. She is a Native person.
Okay.
The singing voice was a white woman from Broadway.
Got it.
Yeah. And then Vanessa Williams did the credits song. Back when they used to have an R&B version of the song.
Yep.
With Peebo. Peebo wasn't in this one.
Peebo Bryson.
Tale as old as time.
Yeah. Or I can show you the world. I love Peebo Bryson. Great voice.
Well, they used him twice.
I know.
I think at least twice.
At least twice. Yeah.
So it didn't happen that way, but it's fine. I got a different job. Went down a different path. I probably wouldn't have lasted that long anyway, to be honest, because I was there for the money, not for the love of the game. i.e., I wasn't obsessed with doing that job. I'll tell you, some people, there were some tears, there were some screams. Someone did say, "This is all I want to do."
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that they were able to look past it. And
I hope they grew. I do.
Yeah. I hope that they found other dreams.
A dream is a wish your heart makes.
Hopefully when you're wide awake. So that
yeah, I hope not.
Yeah.
Because when I'm asleep, I have some messed up dreams, bruh. They shouldn't come true. I tell
you. We're at like almost 30 minutes.
We did it. We made an episode.
So much for our mini episode.
All right. Well, that's enough.
Yeah. We'll see you next week where we talk about something probably that we watched, hopefully.
Something different.
All
right. Bye-bye, everyone.
Good night.